this has been our 100th anniversary was February 1920. Was the first incorporation of the Ontario Mining Association. So to celebrate that 100 year, we decided instead of looking at traditional approach of just celebrating historical achievements, we would look forward to trying to allow people to discover mining and then realize the importance of it. And we partnered with a number of people to help get our message out. And so we picked 5 themes. We've got an inclusive, diverse workforce. So, we hosted at the exhibition a food court by an Aboriginal chef at one of our mining camps, and it was very popular. Thousands of people lined up for Bannock, and it was well received. Morning television shows covered it and everything else. And so a lot of people sort of looked at mining a little different because of that campaign. And then we've gone into the excitement part, the adventure, and we partnered with the Ontario Hockey League that has a lot of young families and young people attending the games. I think you've seen some of the videos that were produced at halftime and on the Sportsnet. So it's allowing people to discover on their own and tell their stories or listen to stories about the importance of mining, and the legacy is important, but the future is more important.
And the contribution to the Ontario economy, when we think about mining, it doesn't come up in, I'll call it mainstream media chatter very often.
That's true. It's true of a lot of sectors though as well. Like it's not really the mainstream media that we're trying to get. It's young people in the province to appreciate mining. It has a huge economic impact. Punches well above its weight in terms of GDP, in terms of employment spin-offs and those type of things. But more importantly, it makes the world a better place. If you look at climate change or global warming, if you're going to fight that, you got to get rid of carbon. All those technologies require minerals. We produce the products that are making the world cleaner and a better place to live. And people need to know that. When they're using their iPhone, they need to associate that this is done in a sustainable, environmentally sustainable manner. And that's what they're discovering with this campaign.
And Canadian mining companies in particular are they are world leaders when it comes to sustainable development practices, and they are studied by
Ontario minerals are, steel, for example, or nickel and copper are produced with the least amount of carbon anywhere in the world. Our grid is pretty well carbon free, except for a bit of peaking power with natural gas. And we don't use a lot of peaking power. So we produce minerals with less carbon than any other place in the world.
And you see so much of a shift these days as well in terms of the activity. There's a lot of interest in minerals that are going to be part of the the electric vehicle world as well. That's a big shift, I guess, from the time that you took over as head of the OMA, which is, just remind me what year that was.
Well, in 1920 is when we started.
No, when you took over.
When I took over, 1994. Patrick Reed was here for 20 years before me.
Right.
And it's been a great job working with great people. And I think people that go into mining are always surprised at what a professional, diverse workforce we have, and how friendly they are. And I don't know if it's Northern Ontario rubbing off on the corporate structure, but it's a great place to work.
Well, anyone that certainly attends PDAC for the first time gets a sense of that once they're there. There's no question about that.
It's an exciting industry as well. There's lots of modern mining's exciting, and it's worthwhile to go into.
So as you reflect on the first 100 years and you look forward to, let's say, the next 100 years, the current minister has set up a working group to look at the regulatory framework that's there. Where do you see that going, and do you see that as obviously as being a positive thing?
Well, that's a good thing. We've, you always want to look at one of the great advantages we've had in Ontario is a rule of law and honestly applied rules. There's good geology in a lot of places in the world, but you want to make sure that if you invest your money, that you play by the rules, you can actually develop a mine and then get a return on that investment. So as a result, the trade-off's been, because we have rules and honestly applied rules, that you've been able to borrow money cheaper than some other place in the world, so we could pay higher wages. And that's the trade-off. If you lose that certainty of the rule of law, you'll have to pay a risk premium on financing $1 billion plus mine, and it's got to come from somebody where if you're going to be competitive. we've been able to do it on the financing side, have a competitive advantage than other jurisdictions, and been able to pay higher wages.
One of the things that's come up in the last several months is this initiative called Save Canadian Mining. So on that topic of financing, there is some concern that a lot of the big hedge funds are out there taking advantage of, especially junior miners out in the marketplace. That they're literally sitting ducks for these short sellers. Do you see? Are you involved in that process in terms of?
I am. We've talked to the group behind it, and we agree with their goals. It's a tricky proposition, and it needs to be studied, but there's definitely an issue there. We want to make it so that capital flows into our country, and that people that play by the rules can develop a mind that makes the world a better place to live in.
Yeah, no kidding. So in terms of coming up for the big event up here in Timmins, when you put things in a perspective in terms of that 100-year history of mining.
We've got an AGM before that if it's not canceled due to the coronavirus, and it could be just delayed. It's not health comes first, obviously, but so that's at the Toronto Stock Exchange that was around in 1920. And there's going to be a theme of what was on the stock market at that time, and some of the companies that sponsored the stock exchange at that time were mining companies. So it really fits. The location is going to be great. We've got Johnny Harris is going to be the speaker, and we've got themes from our campaign, the 5 themes, and there's going to be active participation of all the audience in all these themes before the dinner. So then after that, on June 2nd, I'm going to come up and recap for your audience 100 years past, but more importantly, what we see take place in the next 100 years. The awards that they've asked me to hand out, my speech isn't going to be the focus. The awards are going to be the focus. We've got the Legacy Builder Award, a Rising Star Award, Good Neighbor Award, and the Innovator Award. So you've got an exciting program lined up for Canadian Mining Expo in Timmins in June 2nd, and we're looking forward to being part of it.
So what's a boy from Hamilton, real estate agent, doing, the continuing or finishing out your professional career in mining? Did you ever think that you'd be in the position that you're in right now?
No, actually, I'm from Haliburton, Ontario, which is just right at the edge of Algonquin Park. Which is
I meant to say Haliburton. I apologize if I misspoke there.
It's a beautiful part of Ontario, and it's mining's even making it cleaner with the products that we produce, catalytic converters or electric vehicles, etc. So I've got a cottage there. I'm up there most of the time, and on the weekends. So it's fun. And the mining industry is a lot like the purity of Haliburton. If you take a look at some of the reclamation sites, we're a temporary disruption to the landscape. When mining's done, it goes back to the way it was before, and that's modern mining. We've had legacy issues that have been a disaster for the environment, but if you take a look at modern mining, those two things have coexisted very well.
Do you think that, Chris, that we do, and I when I use the term we, I'm obviously it's the collective. Do you think that the industry does a good enough job of selling itself to the broader public about the way it conducts business?
No, and I don't know if you want all mining companies to be ad agencies. We do a really good job engineering and making sure that we're doing the right thing. I'd rather that we do the right thing instead of talk about the right things. And so if you have to pick, I prefer we have good engineers that have great environmental practices and treat their employees really well, as opposed to telling a louder story. I think this campaign that we've embarked upon, people can discover themselves the benefits of modern mining, and that's better than us telling our story. They discover it.
Chris, thank you so much for joining us here at MiningLifeOnline.net.
Oh, thank you very much.
Take care. And we'll see you in Timmins in June.
Okay, thanks. Okay,
take care.
Bye.